Hi guys! So this video is going to go over a couple examples of how to refactor code that already has a function with selection and if statement and a iteration loop, and how to refactor it to make use of parameters. So I have this app here, which is the Bike and Walk Commutes Information app. It uses this bike and walk commutes, which is data on like bicycling and walking to work in the US on different cities and states. It has some information about the size of the city, as well as if they bike or walk, the percent of people that are using that mode, and a bunch of other information. For this app in particular, we make some lists using the city, the state, the mode, whether they bike or walk, the percent of that mode, and then the size. So on this app, the user is able to select if they want to see information about a small random city, a medium random city, or a large random city. So we do need to filter by that size. So we have three functions for filter here: filter small, filter medium, and filter large. Notice that all three of these functions are basically doing the same similar thing. They are going through traversing the city size and looking for all the city size for the small one, the city sizes that are small, and adding those to the filtered list. If for the medium, it's checking for the city sizes that are medium and filtering those, and then for the large, being large. We always start with clearing the list, which just takes all the filtered lists and clear them. That way, if I click small, it shows me a small city. But when I go back, if I choose to go with a large, then it will clear when it calls the filter large. It clears the list so that all of the small ones that were there before are cleared before now adding all of the large ones. So it just works by filtering, and then it updates the screen, of course, to show a random element from that filtered list. With the small button, we call filter small. With the medium button, we call filter medium. And with the large button, we call filter large. So how can we refactor this code so that rather than having these three separate filter functions, we just have one filter function? Well, what we can do is we can generalize the solution by using a parameter. So I'm going to switch to text here so that I can edit the code a little bit easier. So basically notice each one of these functions always starts by clearing and then updating the screen. The only difference is the middle traversal. If the user wants to filter by small, then it will go through all of them and use the small. Now, I don't want it to only check the ones that are small, but I also want to make sure that what they actually pick is small. So what I could do is I can name it just filter, and I can maybe put like a parameter, name it size, because that makes sense. Obviously here we're talking about size. So I can add a larger if statement so that I check if the size that is passed into the function is equal to small. Then I take all of the code for small and I run it in that scenario. So if the size is small, then I run the code to traverse and filter by small. Otherwise, if the size that is passed into this parameter is actually medium, then I'm going to take all of the code for traversing for medium and pass it into here. And I'm just going to tab it over so that it's more clear. And then otherwise, if the size is instead large, then I will run all of the code for traversing to filter by large. And tab it over. I do get a redefinition of I here because I did already use I in this loop, in this function. So to get rid of that warning, you really could leave it like that. But you could just change them so that it's J here, and then K here. And then that'll get rid of that little warning. The I is used in the loop anyway, so it really doesn't matter that you use the same one. But if you want to, get rid of that little warning, that's just use a different variable name, and then it won't give you that problem. Okay, so now that means that I can actually get rid of my filter medium and my filter large. Now I just have one filter function, okay, which is going to filter depending on the size that is passed in when I call it. When I call filter and I call filter passing in small, then it's going to run lines 15 through 22 and will not run the rest of this selection statement. It will skip lines 23 through 41. But if I call it instead filter passing in medium, then size will be medium, which means it'll skip lines 14 through 22. Line 23 will be true. It'll run lines 24 through 31 and skip 32 through 41. So the only thing that I have to fix now is obviously where I called it. These are no longer filter small, filter medium, and filter large. Those are not the functions that I need to call. The function name is just now called filter by itself. And then what I pass in as the parameter is the size that I want it to pass in for size. So filter calling passing in small, and then for this one, filter passing in medium, and then for this one, filter passing in large. Because of course, I want it to work that when I click the small button, I call filter pass in small. That way it filters and it uses the small code. And for medium, it uses the medium code and so on. So now let's run it to test it, of course. If we click medium, we see a medium city, back, large, California, San Jose city, that's a pretty large city. Large again, we got New York, Rochester city. Let's try a small one this time. We got Ohio, Oxford city. Okay, and it just shows the different information and displays the screen, filtering by that size. So this function now, right, on line 61, we see a call that causes the one part of the if statement to run. And then on line 66, it causes a different part of the if statement to run. Because when I call it passing in small, it runs this part and skips the rest. But when I call it passing in medium, it runs this part and skips the other parts. Okay. I also wanted to show you the same code, but with a dropdown. So with a dropdown, what we need to do is to hold the user selection, the user size selection. So we have a variable for the user size selection. And what I did here is in the on event, I have checking if the user size selection is small, then it filters small. If the user size selection is medium, then we call filter medium. And then otherwise, if the user size selection is large, then we filter large. So this is just one on event go because of that. Now, I could actually use the same exact function definition, delete that, those three. And I could take the same function definition that I had over here, copy it over. And then same thing, instead of calling filter small or filter medium or filter large, it's not letting me remove it, I will just call filter passing in the value that I want. So if the user selects small on the dropdown, then I call filter passing in small. But if they select medium, then I call filter passing in medium. But if they pick large, then I call filter passing in large. And it works the same way. It's just slightly different functionality because it's a drop down rather than 3 separate buttons. So if I click the drop down large and I click go, it shows me a large, Houston City, very large city. If I go back and I click a small city, I click go, and then I see a small city, Baldwin City, which is in Missouri, which is pretty small city. So the functionality is the same. It just as far as the app itself, how it works, but just the user interaction is slightly different with the drop down. Okay. So that is pretty much it. I just wanted to show you that example of refactoring code, which already had a function and a selection and iteration, and just making use of the selection to generalize the code of that function. Hope it helps. Bye, guys.